Well, hello everyone. It is February the 20th, and we have a Rebel Roundup, and it's me. I'm hosting. I didn't realize till about 5 minutes ago it's going to be a great show. But I'm not alone. I'm co-hosting with the lovely Tamara Leach for our Rebel Roundup panel style today. Tamara, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yes, I'm a total noob, as you very well know, but I'll do my best to hold up my end of the bargain here, Drea.
Well, something tells me you're going to do great. You're doing great already in the field, thrown into it rebel style. I remember my first time going out, they just kind of were like, go out and don't get a suit. And so here we are. Here
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
5 years later, still doing the same thing. So today's going to
Awesome.
be a great show. As I said, we have a panel, but before, let's just do a little housekeeping. Normally, the Menzoid, David Menzies, is the host of the show. He must be out in the field or something like that. So we're going to do it over with you. And the fun part is you can be a part of the Rebel Roundup. And how you do that is by participating chat style. If it's on YouTube, you can leave us a super chat. And with a donation of $5 or more, you become a part of the show. We read those chats, and it also, of course, keeps our journalism going strong. Without you guys, we are unable to get the message out. If you're watching on YouTube after this is live, then you can leave a super thanks if you want to donate towards our journalism. And of course, let's not forget Rumble, our free speech friends who never censored us during lockdowns while we were telling people about, you know what, I'm not sure what I can say right now, but you guys know what I mean. If you're on Rumble, you can join the show with a donation of $5 or more by leaving a Rumble rant. And today we have a really fun guest. Actually, he's been here before, so you might know him as a familiar face. It's Elie Cantin-Nantel. He is a journalist and commentator. He's done great work with the Hub Canada. He's also done work with the Post Millennial and True North. Welcome back, Elie.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, and especially a pleasure to be with Tamara today,
Yeah.
Drea.
No, oh, thank you. Always a
Yes.
pleasure to see you. I just saw you at the convention a few weeks ago.
Yes, yes, that was a lot of fun. I had a good time. I hope you did. And it looks like you ruffled some feathers with the CBC from what I read online.
Well, I guess David Cochran's no longer on the C or no longer on the X, so maybe I did
Oh.
ruffle a few feathers there. Yeah.
It's about time. I never got to ask you this, Tamara. Was there a little bit of shock with some people seeing you holding the mic, like, or did they already know, you think, the MPs and whatnot?
Well, I think most of them knew. I think a lot of people, don't quite understand my house arrest. But I mean, obviously, working for Rebel News, the word has gotten out rather quickly. So, but no, everyone that I spoke to was very pleasant. Even some of the MPs that I wasn't too sure, how they would take me or take my presence were very kind, and it was a great experience overall. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're doing great work, and we're spoiled to have you. So we're going to start with a story. It looks like you broke, Elie, at least on X. And for those of you who are watching and you don't know, the Supreme Court in the US has ruled against President Trump's sort of tariff position and things like that. So if we can pull up Ellie's post here, he talks about our first Canadian MP, Dominic LeBlanc, to speak and respond to the Supreme Court's ruling against Donald Trump's tariffs in Canada. And yeah, let's have a look at some of what he had to say. Actually, Elie, why don't you tell us? You think you could tell us? It's your post. I
Sure, let
can.
me just pull up the post so I can read directly from it. So yeah, Dominique Leblanc, who does deal with the trade, he seemed to be quite happy with the decision. I mean, I think it's a good decision. I don't support the tariffs. I think they make life more expensive for everybody. So he said that it basically affirmed its position of Canada that the decision is unjustified because he used some powers, some emergency powers. And what's funny, I will say, there are some people who are, very happy that the Supreme Court has seemingly put Trump in check for this. But some of those same people supported emergency powers here in
Mm.
Canada against Tamara Lich and against, regular Canadians during lockdown. And to them, I say, you have to pick a lane. You can't just support emergency powers when you like them. You have to have a more, I guess, principled stance on what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't. And in my opinion, both peaceful protest and the need to put tariffs both don't constitute emergencies that warrant, over powers that are too powerful and that kind of override democratic institutions.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as Canadians, it's hard not to have a little bit of relief when we see this because we are getting hit by this and we are in Canada. We're not in the United States. But another thing I think about is the equal celebration. And we've talked about it before on here, how China had some hefty tariffs against us, but it just seemed to be this war against Trump, all this focus on Trump. And then here we are, new world order collaboration with China. So what about you, Tamara, when you take a look at this and you see what the Supreme Court decided over there, and what do you think's to come with our politicians? Are they all going to take the same stance as this MP?
Well, I think they will, and I agree that the tariffs are horrible for our economy. Obviously, they're affecting a lot of jobs throughout the entire country. So I think this is good news for Canada. I mean, it doesn't alleviate all of the tariffs that we're currently facing. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen a reaction from President Trump yet. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out now.
Yes, we have an article, and again, it's talking about how it was struck down, the sweeping tariffs. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but the little more detail is that it was a 6-3 decision. So that's how it was voted, so not unanimous. Um, Under an emergency power law, including the sweeping reciprocal tariffs he levied on nearly every other country.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to wait to find out. It says it's the first major piece of Trump's broad agenda to come squarely before the nation's highest court. So first of its kind, very unique, which he helped shape with the appointments of 3 conservative jurists in his first term. So maybe it will settle some of the disruption, who knows, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We also have an article here, National News Watch. Canadians kind of hate America now. I think it's been for a while now. I think the whole reason we saw a liberal government get a 4th term is because of how much Canadians hate America. It's pretty sad. But if we look here, and I'll pull it up here. There's a new poll that shows just how much we apparently hate them. And by we, I don't mean me, and I assume I don't mean you guys as well. It's not just about the trade war. Nearly half think the US is a bigger threat to the world peace than Russia. Again,
What a
why does
statement.
what a statement, but why does
That's nuts.
China always get a pass? What do you
Good
make of
question.
that, Ellie?
It's this is like almost a mass, and this is what I've kind of seen all along, is this is a mass psychosis of sorts. This is
100%.
people, when you consume legacy media, which I do because as a journalist, I need to know what they're telling Canadians. And
Mhm.
it's nonstop every day. It's this anti-America porn, basically, of America's bad, America's bad, America's bad. And what that does is it makes you believe something that is not based in reality. If you look at China, China imposed horrible tariffs on Canada, and they detained citizens, and they committed a genocide against the Uyghur Muslims. And
Mhm.
there were polls showing that the elbows up crowd preferred China over the US, a democracy
Wow.
that gives people, has lots of civil liberties. But, there is a derangement. I experienced it
Yeah.
myself. I went down to America Fest, the Turning Point USA event in December, and I usually don't get a lot of hate online, but there were like very, very vicious comments on all my posts, including from some prominent liberals who were saying things like, "We hope you get deported by ICE, you traitor, or detained by ICE."
Wow.
They're
Wow.
wishing, they think ICE are basically Nazis, and then they want me to get
Hmm.
detained by them. It's like it seems like you're a little bit. And what's interesting is while Canada focuses on this really obsession where they consume all this US news, they're always obsessed with the US, Americans are living life. There is a post on Reddit that came up this week, and I believe it's in a border town in a grocery store parking lot, and someone being like, "What is this elbows up thing?" It was funny because there was a Canadian that had a bumper sticker that said "elbows up" and was going to the U.S. to buy, I guess, cheaper groceries. Oh, the irony! And the Americans didn't know. The Americans
Wow.
aren't aware. When I tell them what's going on in Canada, and I told a lot of people at America Fest, they were completely astounded. So I think this is just more evidence of, what Jamil Javani said. This is the anti-American hissy fit. And unfortunately, a lot of Canadians have let their emotions take over logic and fact. Yes, the trade war is frustrating. Yes, there are certain things going on in the US that aren't amazing. But no, the US is not the greatest threat to the world. There's Russia,
Oh.
there's Iran, China pose a much greater threat.
Oh my goodness. And how much we've needed them. And I would say continue to need them. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I want to say about a year ago, less than a year ago, a plane was hijacked in British Columbia by a radical Islamist, and it was heading. And before we can even get our defense planes off the ground, the US came and intervened and saved our butts. I mean, this is how valuable our relationship is
Well,
with the
we
US. Go
can't
ahead.
even we can't even shoot down balloons for Pete's sake.
It's
Like,
just
I mean, to say that that jeopardizing our relationship with the United States is the way to go is absolutely insanity, in my opinion. We're living in upside down clown town. We had an
abs-
election last year that was solely based on a former banker from the UK that was living in the UK. It was just a rage farming TDS rage fest.
Mhm,
And it was disgusting. I mean, we've been friends. They're our closest neighbors. They're our biggest trading partner.
mhm.
And like Eli just said, I mean, we are a country that is now running by feelings, running on emotional reactions instead of logic and the rule of law. I have not met one single Canadian across this whole country that says anything bad about Americans. They're all appalled at what our media continues to push out for our politicians.
You're right. The media is so strong with this. That same poll, it just says that the new results of the poll suggest a lasting chill has settled over the world's former bosom buddies. Americans are rosy as ever about their northern neighbors, but Canadians don't share the love. And I agree with you, Tamara. It is the media, for the most part, that made that happen, that gave people, I don't know if you know people like this, but many of the people in my life who are not really into politics, all they know is Trump. They don't even know a thing about Mark Carney. They just know everything to do with US politics as the media has crafted it. And that's very concerning. I think that's why we're seeing this division. I want to circle back to something Elie said, because it reminded me of something when you said that you went to the US and then you saw comments saying, "Oh, I hope ICE gets you," and what that means. It reminded me of when I spoke out against Black Lives Matter. And then the so-called people who thought, the liberals who thought Black Lives Matter would say to me, "I hope the police get you." Like it's like the same thing. I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
you guys are
Wow.
nuts, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really sad and it's concerning if this continues where we don't have this relationship. I certainly isn't a winning position for Canadians overall, I don't think. I'm gonna just find my spot on this list again. My bad. All right, next up we have another poll here. This one is published. We heard about it through City News Vancouver. And it's a new poll which finds that 2/3 of Canadians are also solidly behind Prime Minister Mark Carney's efforts to transition away from a Trump tariff impacted economy towards new opportunities and ventures. I mean, what other choice do we have? I think that Prime Minister Carney kind of shot us in the foot in those first 8 months or so of doing diddly squat for us. But what do you make of that, of the majority of Canadians supporting this effort to find a new path? I'll go to you, Elie.
Well, I think that it doesn't surprise me. I mean, from what we talked about, uh, people are just going a plea about anything. But if I can add something, last week Jamil Javani caused a whole lot of anger when he mentioned the hissy fit with the US and when he went down there. And what I kept, including amongst conservatives, there were a lot of prominent I call them the CBC conservatives because they're the only conservatives who are allowed on the CBC, and some others as well, some commentators who were criticizing this. And all I kept thinking to myself is, well, we're now more than a year into elbows up, which is kind of the Mark Carney liberal strategy, the
Yeah.
running those Ontario ads in the US strategy, the taking the alcohol off the shelves strategy, the bashing the US strategy. What has that delivered? We're a year into this. You look at other countries around the world that have taken another strategy. They're making deals, they're making advances. Canada's not negotiating. Canada, in fact, got tariff increases because of the elbows up strategy. So what's going on? Like, honestly, last week when they were all coming down on Jamil, this felt like another mass formation psychosis. It's a bit like when you have the first politician that comes out for an event like the convoy maybe or some other cause, and everyone just go rails down on them, and then eventually everyone starts to realize this person was right. I think that's probably where we're going to end up being. But right now, like, this just makes no sense. What's the other alternative? China that sends the spy balloons and the spy cars into our society? Come on.
And I personally am not really pro politician. I mean, they're man. I don't put a lot of faith into men in general. I hope and I root for things, and I like a lot of the things that President Trump has done, obviously. But I'm noticing that it's becoming, again, I'm going into my personal life, that people, I realize, like, even in my own family, where I can't have these political conversations, because if I do, I might lose my relationship with my loved ones. I think we can all resonate with some of that. But what I'm getting at is, I don't talk to them about President Trump, but it's almost like they're excited now. Like, it's like, oh, what do you think of your Trump now? Look what he's doing now. Look at this. And look at the monkeys on the Obamas. Like, they're just so happy to bring it up. Tamara, are you finding anything like that where, I will admit, it's a bit harder to rebuttal now because I think it's so complex, the situation. Are you
Yes.
getting any of that?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of things about President Trump too. I don't have to like everything about him. I mean, of
Right.
course, I think he could behave a little more diplomatically and with a little bit more tact, but that's just quite simply not who he is. As far as the poll goes, I mean, I personally stopped believing in polls in 2016 during his election run against Hillary Clinton, when the polls were telling me that 98 or 96% of Americans were going to be voting for Hillary Clinton and hand her a landslide, and we saw how that turned out. Coincidentally, that was about the same time that I stopped heavily daily consumption of the mainstream media. But, even going back to what Elie was saying about Jamel going down there, I mean, even Pierre Poilievre sort of threw him under the bus, which sort of surprised me. I mean, I think when we're at a situation, self-imposed, in my opinion, in a situation like we are right now with the United States, anyone that can go down there and try to make a difference to help Canadians and their country should be applauded and cheered on and encouraged. I mean, this is not just a partisan issue. We're talking about the entire economic welfare of the whole country. So, I applaud him for going down and doing that. But again, it seems to be what's happening, and I think we're seeing this anti-Trump rhetoric ramping up again, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we may have an election coming up in the spring. So I think that all of this is by design. And one of the fallouts of that you're seeing is, like, influencers in the States like Matt Walsh, who are speaking out against Canada, are irritating the elbows up crowd even more. So, it starts this cycle of ridiculousness and anger that, if there is a spring election, that's going to be, I think it's going to be very similar, if not worse, than the one we just had last year.
Well, speaking of ridiculousness and anger, let's make our way to BC news.
Wow.
Minnesota.
What is
Canada.
going on in BC?
Oh,
my goodness.
God, it's never ending out here.
I almost feel bad being from Ontario because
Oh.
it's quite bad here, but sometimes I look at BC and it's like, oh, maybe, you got to be grateful sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. We are like, I feel like the Americans look at Canada as a whole of like, hey, this is where we don't want to go. And then within Canada, the Canadians look at BC and go, oh my gosh, this is where we don't want to go. And as the BC Bureau Chief Reporter, it's crazy. We just saw a crazy very disturbing ruling come out of the BC Human Rights Tribunal.
Yes.
Many times over, we have interviewed Mr. Barry Newfield. He's a former Chilliwack school trustee, a staunch critic of SOGI 123, which is the sexual orientation gender identity program that really, introduces gender ideology and emphasizes it to kids. And, it's even linked to sexually explicit books being normalized. It's been so heavily opposed and yet still sits there. So he for many years opposed that, and very boldly so. And in one of the instances, one of his many legal battles over that fight that he's taken, has been this ongoing human rights battle with the Chilliwack Teachers Association. And our BC Human Rights Tribunal just ruled that he must pay 750,000 dollars, nearly
Wow.
$1 million is his penalty for speaking out there. Now, it's a very large ruling. It's like 160 pages. I'm still working my way through it. There are some other things like accusations that he's releasing information from the publication ban. But so that the publication ban, as we've also covered many times when it comes to this gender ideology issue and this defense to sort of secure it, it included crazy things like not even saying anything about any teacher who may become a witness. Like it was just so far reaching. And so here you have this former school trustee. He's not working anymore. He's an elderly man, lives on his own, and they hit him with that high of a penalty. But that's not even the craziest part, or maybe it is, or maybe this is tied. In their decision, they said radical things, including that if you don't believe that gender identity is let me make sure I got this right. Basically, they said that if you believe that biological sex determines gender identity, then you are denying the existence of trans people, an existential denial. That is so concerning. That is so concerning. Even as a journalist, can we speak in realities without being fined close to $1 million? What was going through your heads when you guys heard that?
Great question.
Big
Well, my first question is, how many feelings were hurt, and what's the cost breakdown of price per feeling? Because this is literally what it's all about.
Mhm.
Some people had some hurt feelings, and now this guy has to almost pay like $750,000.
Mhm.
Come on. Again, we're moving away from being a country ruled by the rule of law, and it's all about feelings. And you're right. That is horrific. That's a horrific decision.
And
Eli, go ahead.
well, I was
I
just gonna
mean,
say, yeah,
I
go ahead.
wrote, so sorry, go ahead, Drea.
No, you go ahead. Go with the
I would
flow.
say I reacted to that by saying Canada has become unrecognizable. There were two gender ideology rulings this week, both from human rights tribunals, which, by the way, are
Mhm.
kangaroo courts.
Mm.
These things should not even exist to begin with. If there's an actual, violation of charter rights, it should just go to a regular court. But we've established all of these courts that take up all of these kind of bogus arguments. I mean, the founder of Rebel News, Ezra Levant, was involved in one,
Mhm.
almost 20 years ago because some people didn't like a cartoon he published, right?
Mhm.
It's ridiculous. Why do we have these to begin with? Second of all, so we have this one, $750,000, which is it's an insane amount of money when you think about it. Even a $750 fine would have been a lot for this. 7,500 would have been a lot for this. $75,000 would have been
Yeah.
a lot. But 750,000 is insane. Similarly, you had another case in Quebec this week, another ruling from another one of these tribunals saying that a hair salon had to pay $500 to a non-binary person because when you went to book for a haircut, you had to choose if you wanted a man or a woman's haircut, and that too was apparently deemed to be a discrimination worthy of giving a settlement. And this person, this complainant in Quebec, actually said that they had to take time off for mental health because the computer asked if they were a man or a woman. Again,
Wow.
becoming unrecognizable.
Yeah.
We're a country where repeat offenders, where people who commit horrible crimes get lenient sentences. where often they get off the hook. There's this individual in Alberta living in the van who, committed horrible things to children and is allowed out on bail. And at the very same time, we're giving out these fines for ideological reasons to
Hmm.
people. I mean, this is a joke. I often say Canada has become a South Park episode. The difference is a South Park episode is about 20 minutes. This has been going on for
Right.
over 10 years, and it just will not stop. It's so frustrating. And honestly, I'll be praying for this gentleman because, while
Hmm.
I haven't read the full reading, $750,000 seems very excessive.
Very excessive. I'm actually going to be interviewing tonight, so I'll have more details
Mm.
coming up soon on Rebel News. But you're right, these quasi-judicial courts, if you look at the top of them, including in the BC Human Rights Tribunal, there's activists on there. And so we have, even with Rebel News, you mentioned one of our cases. This is not the first time we're living that nightmare right now, for example, with infamous Jessica Serenity Simpson, better known as Jonathan Yaniv, and the things that he's gotten away with, assaulting our journalists, inappropriate texts with minors, threatening my children. All of these things just go under the radar. When he went to a real court and tried to sue us for being defamatory, which we weren't, we were just reporting on things that the public should be aware of, that Yaniv is getting away with. That didn't work. The judge rightfully struck that down. So where is he taking us next? This same court that's done this outrageous ruling. We have two different cases from him that we're defending ourselves in. And the cost to do that alone, that's enough to wipe out an everyday person. Thankfully, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has been helping out Barry with that. But it's just our donors who help us take on this fight so that we continue to shed light on this issue. So if you want to help with our Human Rights Tribunal cases that are still in the go, we have a website called stopyaniv.com if you want to help protect our journalism that way. And like I said, I'll have more with Barry Newfield coming out. But it is very concerning. Obviously, we are strong free speech proponents. I think we all
Oh.
are here. Definitely Rebel News is. And this says a lot for, well, as a school trustee is elected, by the people. He was re-elected by the people. He believed he identified an issue both within the school system, but also from his background, where he used to work as a probation officer and with foster kids. And look what's happened. Look what's happened with the stand, and what's that going to say to teachers and everything else like this. So my belief is that society as a whole really needs to push against this so that it's not normalized to be censored. And just the other thing is we're seeing this trend of violence in the transgender community, transgender identifying community. And I am of the strong belief that much of that is from stuff like this, where it gets
Mhm.
affirmed that what everybody pretty much believed, I don't know, 11 years ago, which is when you were asked, what's your gender? Everybody said male or female. Like that was just normal. Now all of a sudden that's hate. That is an offense to this measure. What does that say to these people who struggle with their biology? What does that say to their psyche? And I argue that it could be, the correlation we're seeing with violence could be linked to this normalized hate narrative when that's not what it is. It's just beliefs, and we should be allowed
Mhm.
to have those respectfully. Oh
Well,
my.
and I think, like you just said, I mean, one of the most concerning things about this ruling is the self-censorship. This is a slippery slope we're heading down as far as, like you said, free speech.
Mhm.
Now, if you're gonna say something against Soji or a gender ideology, I mean, and now you're going to be faced with a $750,000 fine. I mean, you're going to think twice about expressing your personal beliefs. I mean, this is like Minority Report pre-crime thought police almost that's happening here now. But I
Yeah.
mean, and even at the start of the show, Drea, when and that's at the start of our show, House Arrest, I have to say the same thing. If you're on YouTube, there's certain words that you can't say, or they'll be pulled, or you'll have, your monetization penalized. So, I mean, we're faced with censorship everywhere already, and I think this is just another sort of nail in the coffin of free speech in Canada, and it's disturbing.
And actually,
And,
this
and
this
what's
particular,
disturbing
yeah.
too, we know what the end result is. It's called the United
Yes.
Kingdom. We're going down that path
Mhm.
with Bill C9, with the talks of wanting to reintroduce Bill C63, which I spoke to a constitutional lawyer, and he says that if provisions of this bill, which is the online hate act that was introduced under Trudeau, which would establish a digital safety commissioner. And this prominent lawyer told me that if this were to happen, X will no longer exist in Canada because there's no way that its free speech guidelines can align with that. So it's chilling. We're starting to see uh, cases of extreme censorship. It's not somebody that said something that's very controversial, it seems. We're seeing that while at the same time we're seeing actual criminals get off the hook, just like in the UK, where there seems to be two-tier justice. And I fear that that's where we're headed. And of course, our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, used to live in the UK, so there's a UK connection there.
Well, absolutely concerning trends for sure. Now, Elie, I believe it is the time. It was so fun chatting with you. First of all, say your own name in case I've been butchering it. I think we've only met in person once before, and let everybody know where they can keep up to date with what you're letting the public know.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name's Elie Cantin-Nantel. I was born in Quebec, which is why I have a name that's not pronounceable. You can find me on X, Elie_MCN, and there you'll find a link to my YouTube channel, where we do some great independent, and like Rebel News, I don't take a dime in government funding. I'll go bankrupt before I take government money. So, yes, thanks for having me here, and also keep on supporting our friends at Rebel News and supporting Tamara. And thanks so much for having me.
It's great to see you again. Thanks so much.
Great to see you. Hopefully no bankruptcy in your future. Many
Yes, let's
blessings.
pray for that.
Yeah. All right. Good to see you. See you again, I'm sure. And we're going to go to an ad break. Don't forget, you can be a part of the show. Let us know what comments you have about what we've discussed before on YouTube via Super Chats and Rumble Rants on Rumble. We'll see you right after the break.
Big news, Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
There's one seat left in the movie theater. It's in the front row. You have a bad neck. This is what we call a last resort. If your most recent electricity bill says the rate of last resort, then your rate is like the front row seat in the movie theater. It will serve its purpose, but there are likely better options available.
All right, we're back, and we're back with another just very quick ad read. And I just want to give a shout out and thanks to the companies that work with Rebel News. We have faced so much censorship. You know, the mainstream media gets ads from our government, all of those types of things. And we get the opposite. We get censored and told we can't even, get a live stream chat for years. And so thanks for the companies that partner with us, but we only partner with companies that we believe you will enjoy. And so this is one from Rumble Wallet. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide that you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman. no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, or the trucker convoy protesters, I lost my spot emphasizing that. Give me a sec. You can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today, download Rumble Wallet now, and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. I think I just sold myself on a need for this Rumble Wallet. This is actually my first time hearing about it. Yeah, that is much needed.
No kidding. And really, I mean, as we're seeing the rhetoric against the Alberta independence movement ramping up, we may want to have the province of Alberta looking at a Rumble Wallet too.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, yeah, I'm getting ready to head out here right after the live stream today. I'm traveling to Red Deer to meet up with Sheila Gunn-Reid and Corey Morgan for the Independence Tour. So we have a stop tonight in Red Deer. I think there's still a handful of tickets left, and tomorrow night's Edmonton show is actually sold out. So that's awesome. But if you want some more information, I know there's still a handful of tickets left tonight in Red Deer. You can go to independencetour.com. Check it out for when we're coming to your community, and tickets and more information.
If I was there, I'd totally be there. It's fascinating watching from over here, the momentum that's happening, what's going to happen. And I imagine it's quite electric in the room, is it not?
Yeah, you know, and I've said this at every single event that I've been at so far. It really gives me Freedom Convoy vibes. There seems to be a lot of excitement in the room. People are talking about hope again for their future, while understanding, that, there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead. But I think what the most important thing is people getting out, they're signing the petition. They want to have the choice, and rightfully so. That is called exercising democracy. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I believe the referendum question will be held to a vote in October, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be really exciting here. And you're right. But of course, as the interest and everything is ramping up, we're also seeing the same type of divisive rhetoric coming from the other side. Just like we were called traitors, we were called racists, bigots, misogynists, terrorists. I mean, there isn't an ist or a phobe that we weren't called, and we're seeing that same sort of pushback now coming against regular everyday Albertans who just want a better future for their children and their grandchildren.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk more about BC because part of it is getting it out of my system so that I can compose myself when I do a formal report. Yeah,
like therapy.
We have churches. Therapy. We have churches protesting a church tonight, it would seem. Many of you know of one BC leader, Dallas Brodie. She is the Vancouver Quintilla MLA. She is a very bold MLA. And you probably know her by now, but I would say she's most known for really tackling what I call the reconciliation industry, starting with making it very clear to the public, hey, there are no bodies discovered at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. So what's going on with the money, the millions that we paid for it? And enough of all of this sort of guilt payments and things like that are impacting our economy. And so here's the thing. There is a church, it's called Riverside Calvary Chapel in Langley. They are just simply allowing the event to take place there. It's an Action for Canada event called Truth Matters. And they are having Miss Brodie and another Danielle Pistilli, who was a very common activist during the freedom movement, speak. So it's a private event in a church that's taking place there. I don't even believe it's like a church event. And there are calls to protest simply because an elected MLA is coming to be a speaker there. And I want to go to that article because, of course, this comes out and then the protests follow. So the article refers to it, oh, controversial MLA expected to speak in MLA in Langley. Why is it controversial for an MLA and a party leader to speak anywhere at a private event? There's nothing controversial here. And if you scroll down, so this was in the Surrey Now Leader. This is Black Press Media. In case you don't know, what they do is they do an article and they throw it out on all the local medias, but it's the exact same article. So you think you're getting local, but really you're not. You're getting a narrative. And if you look in there, they are reinforcing to reinforce that title that she's controversial. They're misleading the public. So scroll down a little bit more. This is saying now they've actually updated this one to say protests are coming. Yeah, well, of course, when you do an article like this, they are. So they say Brodie is a former BC Conservative MLA who was ejected by John Rustad. And so I've covered this extensively. It is not true what they say here, that she was mocking voice of Indigenous residential school survivors. No, she was mocking this whole there's no value in objective truth. She was just saying, you can't just say my grandma said this and this. She wasn't mocking the people. She was mocking that. And here it says, she has also denied that there were any children buried at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. No further context given. Right. So if you're not following the truth, if you're not following independent media that has been trying to, scream this from the mountains, 0 bodies have been found there, and also at any other band that made clandestine unmarked grave claims across the country. They're not even saying, oh, and by the way, there have been no bodies found. They're just making her look crazy. So of course protests are going to happen. But hey, this is a church. How far are we going? And look at some of the people joining in. Is this Anglican church that is literally calling for people to join in protest tonight? They're calling people to show up as early as 5:30. I saw an Action for Canada post by Tanya Gaw, who I believe is the founder. And she said, the event itself might be sold out. But we have seen when Dallas Brodie, went to UBC recently, hundreds of people coming in with this misled representation of her to protest her. So I don't know what to expect at this church tonight. What do you make of all that?
Well, I have seen, her being at these universities along with Dr. Francis Widdowson, and it's deeply unsettling that they can't even go. I mean, this is where we're at. And I'm going to say this again. I've said it a million times. When did we get to a place in this country where we couldn't find common ground? Something, we can have our differences. We don't all have to believe the same things. I mean, nothing that Dallas Brodie has ever said has been untrue. There have been no graves of children exhumed. And as a matter of fact, I think there was just an article that came out yesterday because they're about to release some documents. So as you said, I mean, where millions of dollars were sent here to this location to uncover the truth. And there has not been, they haven't even purchased a shovel. There's been no plans for excavation, nothing. So, I mean, she's just asking the right questions and tough questions. Tough because we are run by feelings now and not the rule of law. But for that, she's called far right. I mean, to me, if you're spending billions of dollars on a project like this and nothing's happening, as we've seen in this country for the last decade, I mean, you're rightfully so to ask questions. And especially to be after our country has been accused of being a genocidal nation. Yes. I mean, I am Métis. There's a lot of First Nations people that benefited from residential schools, but you're not allowed to talk about that. And if you do, I believe there's a lady in BC that wants to criminalize residential school denialism.
Leah Gazan. And you're right, we are about to get some information from the Kamloops band almost 5 years later about what the heck really happened. And we're only getting that by force because the feds tried to cover it up. They sealed the report and said it's like too sensitive. And then thankfully, our information commissioner said, no, release that document. So that's the only reason we're actually getting answers coming up. And then we see the band scrambling with some article that came out recently.
Too sensitive for who? Who is it too sensitive for? I mean, we are adults. This is another thing that I am sick and tired of in this country. And it has been going on for at least a decade. It's being talked to talked down to and treated by our politicians, who are actually employed by us to serve us, by the way. Like we are a bunch of children who need to be disciplined and put on the right path. And this is just a prime example of it. We are all adults. And here's the thing, at the convoy, this is one thing that we proved. We became basically a self-governing entity in that area. The streets were never cleaner. They were shoveled, they were salted. There was no cigarette butts on the ground. We had people in place to make sure that the protesters, the supporters, and the truckers were all safe. I mean, so we're not children. We can manage ourselves.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
And I think we're stupid too, because
yes.
And maybe we're just too busy. I think a lot of society is too busy with their lives that they just trust the headlines and maybe the first couple paragraphs and move on with their lives. But one of the first things I pointed out in my documentary a year after the false claim, it's at kamloopsdocumentary.com and it's free for everybody to see, was this whole is culturally sensitive. And that's why we're not disturbing the ground is bull. Because in the culture of Aboriginal people, it is very important to repatriate. And when you look at the Kamloops Residential School, the kids would have come from as far as the Yukon to attend that school. So if you really did find remains, the first thing you would do to be culturally sensitive would be to involve the coroner, find out where these remains are, who are these people, what tribe did they belong to, and return them to their people. That was the biggest red flag for me right on was don't ask any questions, or we might not disrupt, it's too sensitive. So don't fall for this crap anymore. But let's not forget that this false claim that was made us look like a genocidal nation, made our MPs concede that the residential school system was genocidal without evidence of such. This led to a mass burning and vandalism spree against well over 100 churches in Canada. That's got to be the largest hate crime against religion we've seen in Canada for a very long time. And now Elie Brodie, who can't, she gets a lot of her events canceled. She can't even speak at a private church. Now the church, which has already been under attack because of these falsehoods, is being attacked by people who are just holding on to this false narrative, like they really want dead kids to be under the ground when the evidence shows that, probably not. That's probably not what's there. It's sick.
Yeah. Well, and it's done so much damage to our reputation. When I was going through court, one of my bodyguards was from India. And we were talking about this, how our former prime minister called us basically a genocidal nation. And I mean, this has damaged our reputation worldwide. In his country of India, Canada is actually known as a country of baby killers.
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
it's horrific. This is absolutely horrific.
It's sick. Yep.
So are you going to cover that tonight then?
I will be covering that tonight because I just think it's so outrageous, and I'm of course working on getting security, which is another thing.
Right.
Why do I need security to cover an event at a church? That's the state of Canada. So again, I know you need a ton of security when you go out. We have a journalistdefensefund.com. If you guys knew the expenses we pay to keep us safe, thankfully, I appreciate that very much. I even have security at my home that Rebel pays for to keep me safe. But it's actually you guys. It's the people who's doing all that. Keeping Tamara safe, keeping myself safe. I mean, we can't even go to a university or church sometimes to bring you a report safely. So journalistdefensefund.com if you guys want to chip in. I thought this was fun. I thought I did an okay job. Not knowing
you did
I
a
was
great
job.
You did a great job.
I had a great
you found
co-host.
out like 30 seconds before we started that you were hosting. I said I'd do my best, but hey, I'm just a noob.
You did. I had the best co-host. Elie was great. We just went the flow. The people listening, I'm sure you guys were great. Alex Greer, 7,700 donates, $5.49, and I think he just donated that, he or she. So, Alex, yeah. So thank you very much.
That's
Thank
nice.
you for us. Thank you very much. It's been fun. We're going to head out. Stay sane, stay safe, as David
Have a
Menzies
great
would
night.
say.
We'll see you tonight, Red Deer. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, everyone.
It's time to get off the sidelines. Go to independencetour.com right now. Grab your ticket before they're gone. This is Alberta's moment. be in the room. Again, that's independencetour.com.